Pentagon is rushing hundreds of troops to the Middle East after pro-Iranian protesters tried to storm the U.S. Embassy compound in Baghdad. Soldiers from the 82nd Airborne Division boarded C-17 transport planes at Fort Bragg in North Carolina yesterday. They are headed to Kuwait.
Their deployment comes after 2 days of violence at the U.S. Embassy from militias upset about deadly U.S. airstrikes. The protesters have now pulled back from the area, and images of the aftermath show extensive damage, including a burned-out reception area on the edge of the embassy compound. Ian Lee is in Baghdad for us this morning. Ian, good morning.
Good morning. The U.S. is beefing up its security presence in Iraq after the embassy was attacked. But as the violence subsides, many wonder what this means for U.S.-Iraq relations. The Iranian-backed protesters outside the U.S. Embassy may have stopped for now. They dismantled their camp and moved across the river. But what they left behind wasn't just parts of the compound scorched and in ruins, but also U.S.-Iraqi relations in tatters. This recent crisis saw Iran flex its muscles, revealing the extent of Tehran's influence in the country. It began when the U.S. blamed Iranian-backed Shiite militias for killing an American contractor in a missile attack on an Iraqi base last month. The U.S. retaliated with airstrikes on those militias' bases in Iraq and Syria, killing more than 24 fighters. That sparked 48 hours of intense protests. Iraqi security forces stood aside when supporters of those Iranian-backed militias marched to the U.S. Embassy compound in the heavily fortified Green Zone. Compare that to the hundreds of Iraqis who have been killed in anti-government protests when trying to breach the same fortified zone during months of recent unrest. President Trump tweeted Iran will be held responsible for the attack on the embassy, but Iran's supreme leader taunted back in a tweet saying, "You can't do anything." But what America is doing is reinforcing its troops in the region, with hundreds of soldiers from the 82nd Airborne on their way to neighboring Kuwait, joining U.S. Marines already bolstering security at the embassy. That's not stopping a growing number of Iraqi politicians calling for American forces to be forced out of Iraq, which raises the question, can diplomats repair relations, or is this the beginning of the end of the United States military presence in Iraq? This morning, Apache helicopters are still patrolling the skies over the embassy, just underscoring how tense it is in Baghdad. Jarika?
Ian Lee for us in Baghdad. Thank you.